Story titled The Final Dance, My Grandpa's Farewell at Our Family Wedding. Weddings are supposed to be a celebration of beginnings, two people starting a new chapter together. But for me, my cousin's wedding last summer became a poignant blend of both a beginning and an ending. My name is Lily Carter, I'm 30 years old, and I live in sunny California. That summer, our family came together for one of the most beautiful and bittersweet moments I'll ever remember. My grandpa, James Carter, was the heart of our family. At 82, he was the kind of man who carried wisdom in his words, humor in his eyes, and strength in his hands. He had always been larger than life to me. A retired Navy officer, an avid gardener, and the best storyteller I'd ever known. But last summer, things were different. Grandpa had been battling lung cancer for 2 years, and by the time the wedding rolled around, it was clear he didn't have much time left. His body was frail, his voice softer than I was used to, but his spirit was as bright as ever. "I wouldn't miss this wedding for the world," he said when my cousin Jess asked if he'd be able to make it. The wedding was held at a beautiful vineyard just outside of town, with rolling hills and sunsets that looked like they'd been painted by hand. Grandpa sat at the front of the ceremony, his wheelchair parked under a shaded oak tree. He watched Jess walk down the aisle with tears in his eyes, clapping with what little strength he had as she and her new husband exchanged vows. I sat beside him, holding his hand, and I could feel how fragile he had become. His once strong grip was now weak, his skin thin and pale. But he still managed to smile, his eyes twinkling as he whispered, "This is the kind of day worth living for." The reception was a lively affair, filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the sound of an upbeat live band. Grandpa sat at the head table, surrounded by family, soaking in the joy that filled the air. Every so often, someone would stop by to chat with him, to hold his hand, to thank him for being there. And then came the moment none of us expected, the first dance. Jess and her husband swayed to a soft, romantic song, their faces glowing with love. As the dance ended, Jess grabbed the microphone, her voice trembling slightly as she addressed the crowd. "There's one more person who deserves a dance tonight," she said. "Someone who's taught me more about love and life than anyone else. Grandpa, this one's for you." The room went quiet as the band began to play "What a Wonderful World" by Louis Armstrong, Grandpa's favorite song. Jess walked over to him, her hand outstretched. "Will you dance with me, Grandpa?" Tears filled my eyes as he nodded, his voice shaky but firm. "I'd be honored." The room fell silent as everyone watched Jess kneel beside Grandpa's wheelchair, helping him rise to his feet. His movements were slow, deliberate, and his frailty was undeniable. But the determination in his eyes was all Grandpa. With Jess supporting him on one side and my dad on the other, he shuffled to the middle of the dance floor. The band played softly, the familiar melody of "What a Wonderful World" filling the air, and for a moment, time seemed to pause. Jess wrapped her arms around Grandpa, holding him steady as they swayed gently together. He smiled at her, his voice faint but audible. "You're a beautiful bride, Jess. Your grandma would be so proud." Tears streamed down Jess's face, and I wasn't the only one wiping my eyes. Around the room, family members and guests were visibly moved, some holding their loved ones a little tighter. It was as if we all understood the weight of this moment, that this dance was more than a celebration, it was a goodbye. Grandpa's steps were small and unsteady, but he held on, his strength coming not from his body but from his love for Jess and his determination to create one final memory with all of us. As the song continued, Jess leaned in and whispered something in his ear. Whatever she said made him chuckle. A soft, rasping laugh that reminded me of the man he used to be, the one who could light up a room with a single joke. As the song neared its end, Jess stepped aside, and my dad took her place, guiding Grandpa through a few more sways. Then, one by one, members of our family joined them on the dance floor. My mom, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, even the little ones, all of us surrounded Grandpa, swaying to the music together, creating a circle of love and support around the man who had been our anchor for so many years. When the music stopped, the room erupted into applause, and Grandpa, ever the gentleman, gave a small bow. "Thank you," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you for this moment. I'll carry it with me forever." It was the last time I saw him dance. In the weeks that followed, Grandpa's health declined rapidly. The cancer had taken so much from him, but it could never touch his spirit. Even in his final days, he managed to crack jokes with the nurses, tell stories to anyone who would listen, and remind us all of the importance of family. The morning he passed away, I sat by his bedside, holding his hand just as I had at the wedding. His breathing was shallow, his eyes closed, but his face was peaceful. I leaned in and whispered, "We'll never stop dancing, Grandpa. I promise." After his funeral, our family gathered at my cousin's house, sharing stories and memories of Grandpa. Jess, still glowing from her honeymoon, brought out a video from the wedding. We all crowded around the TV, watching as Grandpa swayed to "What a Wonderful World," his smile lighting up the screen. It was bittersweet, watching that moment again. There was so much joy in it, but also the ache of knowing he was gone. Yet, as I looked around the room at my family, I realized something. Grandpa wasn't really gone. His love, his laughter, and his legacy lived on in each of us. To this day, whenever I hear "What a Wonderful World," I think of that final dance. It reminds me of the strength of love, the importance of cherishing every moment, and the beauty of a life well lived. If my story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe for more heartfelt tales like this one. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to share more stories of love, loss, and the precious moments that make life beautiful. Thank you for being here.